Here's a secret resource that I use with my very best clients, especially my coaching folks here at Ad Briefings, and it's the 100 headline formulas and how to use them to boost conversion rates tenfold. It's a course that I put together a while back, and I've got a copy of it here in front of me right now, and I've written all kinds of notes in it because, again, the method of taking headlines and testing them can reveal so much about your audience and can ultimately make the difference between conversion and a campaign flopping. So I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefings Copywriting Tips, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what makes a headline valuable and a little bit about how to test those headlines. Now, I keep logs of all my tests in my content vault, and so I have thousands and thousands of headline variations that are built for different marketing campaigns. I test headlines on articles. I test headlines on podcasts. I test headlines in social media because the testing of headlines tells me more about what creates profitable customers than anything else I have. Now, again, a headline is the very first thing that your prospect sees, and it's the attention-grabbing element of pretty much every marketing piece. But you don't just use headlines on the top of a page. Headlines could be subheads, they could be bullet points, they could be other elements that are drawing the reader into your piece and creating a bridge between the challenges and problems they have and the offer that you have to solve that problem. So a headline is worth slaving over. Now, you don't have to slave over it because I've written thousands of headlines. It turns out they can be very formulaic, but ultimately, the customer's only going to try to do a few things. So the prospect's only going to try to do things. They're going to try to avoid a negative outcome. They're going to want facts in examples. They're going to want the elements that help them know they're in the right place. So before we get into some headline formulas, and a lot of these reports look pretty rough over time because, again, the majority of my reports and courses and services are adapted for individual clients. So when I originally put this 100 headlines report together, it only had 100 headlines. Now I think we're up to, more than 100. But these are formulas again. So the reason we work with formulas is because when you sit down to write copy, you do really want to write 100 headlines at a minimum. So let's say you have a concept for a campaign. If I was going to write a campaign for my coaching program that's at Ad Briefings, I want to be thinking about who is perfect for the coaching program. It's going to be the freelance copywriter that has a few assignments under their belt but wants to earn more money. It's going to be the regular copywriter who is getting tired because they're doing a lot of business and they're very busy, but they're finding they don't have the free time and the luxury that copywriting can provide for many copywriters, and they want to grow their business from freelance copywriter to an agency. Those two separate audiences need individually designed headlines. So I might take 50 headlines and write it for one audience and 50 headlines for another because I'm calling out, again, a different person. Now, these headlines also need to work for call to actions. So we might have a classified ads where it's a headline and then it's a little bit of body detail and then a call to action. That headline has to help with that bridge. It could be getting somebody's attention for a video sales letter. It could be connecting the individual to that next paragraph in something. So now we have the individual buyer and then we have the context of the sales presentation. So our headlines might be used for product names, email subject lines, opening sentences, search engine metadata, social media posts, highlighting in testimonials. Some of the best headlines come from the language that your customers have as they're telling you how much they enjoy your product or services. It might be the title or the subject of a podcast episode. The headlines could be titles and taglines. They could be part of your video sales letter. As I said before, again, a headline is a powerful part of the framework when it comes to your overall copy. So let's get into first a methodology for collecting headlines. If you do a lot of reading, especially when you're reading marketing books or you're reading the same materials that your prospective customers will be reading. Now I'm talking about not the client, because the client is going to hire you to write copy to reach their customers, but those prospective customers, when you're in the same media they're in, you want to be looking in YouTube and Reddit and other search engines to find headlines that catch your attention. And then, like I said, I keep track of those types of things in a content vault, which is searchable. And then I group those headlines by the product offerings. And then I also map in the customer. So, for example, if you have a headline that says, "I lost all my money, it's Biden's fault," maybe that's a headline of a news article or it's an opening to an investment product. We know that if we're saying it's Biden's fault, we're not writing for a Democratic audience. We're not writing for the Democratic Party. We're likely writing for a conservative audience or a libertarian audience. We're likely writing an investment offer. So I want to map that in somewhere if I see that and it catches my attention and it really drew me into the article. And the formula that we're using here is I lost all my, and then we have something of value, it's, and then we blame it on some authority. Now we can speak against that authority. So the context of using that particular complete loss of everything formula, if we see it out in the wild and it catches our attention and we think it's going to work for somebody, we want to immediately map it in to who it's going to work for and what kind of offers. Because really that's all we're doing is we're connecting people who have problems with offers that have solutions. And so it could say, "I lost all my funny. It was Will Smith's fault." You know, after the Will Smith slap and his problems he's having with Jaden afterwards, maybe you're going to use that in an infidelity course. Do you see how it works? "I lost all my mojo. It's Will Smith's fault." And it's a sales letter to husbands who are being abused by their wives, and ultimately you're offering a solution. Again, though, popular culture introduces you the context to plug into these formulas. Let's talk about another formula here where you finally see the light. So people are realizing how crazy and loony the left really sounds. Now you can see I write for conservative media, I write for libertarians, I write for a lot of people in the center of the road. So I've got a collection of headlines that tend to be middle of the road. You know, the left of today sounds crazy, and so I'm writing for an audience that's in the middle of the road, and they're a combination of neoliberals or folks who are in a positive opinion. But here's the formula: who are realizing how some negative observation that, and then whatever the enemy group is, really sounds. And by the way, this report here, if you're a coaching member today, or when you listen to this program, if you're a coaching member, all you got to do is ask for the 100 headlines report. And I'll just send you a copy of this in whatever state it is. Like I said, the one I'm looking at right now has a bunch of handwritten stuff in it because we're going through a revision. I literally use these formulas when I'm working on copy for clients or working for copy on my own site. So let's talk about how the finally seeing the light one sounds again. Entrepreneurs are realizing how unfair and oppressive big technology really sounds. So when you use a headline like this, you got to connect it to some news article so it makes it relevant. But again, you could use this headline for quite a bit. So if Facebook comes out, Google comes out and does a new search engine algorithm and tells you how it's the useful content update, and you can come out and say, look, entrepreneurs are realizing how unfair and oppressive big technology really sounds. Google came out with this fair content or helpful content update, and websites are wrecking because of 5 key mistakes. And now you offer some ideas about the mistakes, connect that with an offer that you'll do an audit on their website to see which of the mistakes that they have, and then you're ultimately going to offer them a solution. Here's another one. Young men are realizing how demanding and petty single women really sound. Discover an effective approach for finding qualified, and then this one was an ad for a religiously based, so finding qualified Jewish singles or finding Christian singles. So I'm taking the enemy, which is in this conservative market, the enemy is a woman who is just all over the place, dressed crazy or whatever, and they want a conservative woman, they want a family-oriented woman, and so now we're doing that juxtaposition, that comparison to help them find the light. Maybe you want to use the learning from a master headline formula. Old salesman teaches rookie how to make big money. So it's some kind of mentor or teacher who teaches the aspiring. So whoever your customer is, the aspiring person in there, it's teaching them how to do some kind of result that they want. So old newspaper man teaches new website owner how to flood their website with high value traffic. Can you see how that works? So somebody wants high value traffic and they're a website owner and some guru comes out and teaches them. You can tell that whole story and help them understand how this miraculous insight from the old newspaper guy. And this could be writing better headlines. Can you see how that works? Old newspaper man tells new website owner how to flood their website with high value traffic. 3 simple tips unleashed a flood of highly qualified visitors. What are the 3 tips? Click here to find out. Let's move on. Results without formal. Okay. Now, a lot of people want to be more casual these days. They were working from home. Now they got to work in the office, but they still want to be casual. Or they want to resist the back to the office movement. And so just make money at home in jeans. Imagine just making money at home in your jeans. Now, today with Zoom and stuff, you don't want to be in your pajamas so much, but you could with these 5 money-making strategies. So the formula is just basically do what you want at home in casual clothing. So here's another one. Just grow really big tomatoes at home in what used to be a yard. So I do a lot of writing for permaculture design or for homesteading type of things. And a lot of folks, they want to turn their yards into gardens. They want to create food security and they want to plan for doing so in suburban areas. And so they don't think they can grow food in their own yard. But imagine just growing really big tomatoes at home in what used to be a yard. It telegraphs that new casual approach. And now we can start talking about not having to mow your grass, not having all the expenses to transform that yard into healthy, fertile soil, to reduce the harm of previous chemical activity on that land by neutralizing the soil with 3 key techniques. Do you see how this works? Isn't this pretty amazing? So these formulas, which we have over 100 of these formulas, help you write the headlines. So when I say write 100 or 200 headlines, or to write 100 headlines for each of the markets that are going to read your product or service, it's really not that hard because we simply go into the formulas that help you write the headlines. We're going to do one more. This is the do this, don't do that headline formula. The do's and don'ts of diarrhea for quick relief. Now think about that. It's a health issue. And people don't want to have diarrhea. I should have briefed this before I said it. But one of the solutions for quick relief is eating plain food and better digestive enzymes. So this is a supplement offer here. And so the way the formula works is the do's and don'ts of and whatever the problem is for quick relief. So here's another one. The do's and don'ts of bankruptcy for quick relief. If you want quick relief from high levels of debt, do these 3 things, not those 3 things. Or here's the 3 things never to do if you're in heavy debt. And here's what to do instead. So we're basically giving them, we're acknowledging how many options there are in the marketplace, and we're guiding them down a path for relief. Now, this formula, and by the way, this is how the formulas work, you can move this one around a little bit. So the do's and don'ts of bankruptcy for quick relief, you can make that the do's and don'ts for quick relief from bankruptcy. But I like to move up the problem a little bit earlier. So this could also be flagging where it says, are you facing bankruptcy? Question mark. The do's and don'ts for quick relief. We can change quick relief into something specific. But again, can you see how we can build a lot of headlines quickly? I'm just going to throw a few in here because I have just a couple notes on the page here with how we connect the headline to that transition sentence before call to action. So, why Christianity matters and how Satan wants to corrupt your family. How to stop the pleasures of this world from breaking down your family, faith, and community. Click here to see more. Here's another one. Why motor oil matters and how the wrong oil kills engine performance. What race car drivers use as an additive that is legal for you in your street car. And then again, what's the call to action? Let's see if I got one more here, because I get so excited about these, because can you see how if you have the formulas, writing the headlines are so much easier. And there's all kinds of challenging headlines here. What my 2-year-old taught me about being kind in the face of adversity. I think I got that one off of Facebook. And so she was ignored on the playground. They were kicking sand in her face, yet she helped the naughty little boy when he fell down. And now we can tell a heart-wrenching story or a heart-connecting story about how this child has overcome adversity and how they found forgiveness. I do write a few religious offers here and there. I have a big collection of religious swipe. But can you see how we could talk about handling emotions, or we can talk about handling anxiety? Let me give you one more. Long Dead Guru teaches the secret to deep, restful, meditative, and insightful sleep. Do this to turn stress into abundance and eliminate frustration while you gain high-quality sleep. So I've done a few sleep offers, and people really are concerned about sleep, and they really feel like they're wasting their time when they sleep. But if they could be restful and meditative and wake up full of energy because they had high-quality sleep, then that headline would catch their attention. So folks, headlines are valuable. They're important. I know you can go to headline generators online and you can ask AI about headlines, but the headline formulas work, and I'll tell you why they work before we wrap it up. They work because they set up a decision to be made. So the headline formula does a comparison that says, are you more like X or Y, gets the reader to think, well, I'd rather be more like Y, so I need to read more. And so we want to get our readers to stop. We want them to not doom scroll, not go to the next thing on the page, but to stop. And again, a headline will help them stop, but the headline's got to transition them into the next guide or the next lead, opt-in, or the next step that's going to move them towards a solution. And so when you get your headlines right, and I'm getting distracted. I'm reading these headlines. Again, if you're a member of Ad Briefing's copywriting tips at any level, and you simply just go to the contact page and email me and ask for the 100 headlines, I'll give you the current version and state of this. And then if we ever workshop when we're working through writing copy for your site, we'll pull this right out and we'll say, okay, let's start writing our 100 headlines. Because a good headline is going to telegraph the big idea. It's going to connect a specific buyer to a specific opportunity. It's going to flag the person, and they're going to stop in their tracks, and they're going to read what you have to say. It's going to help them move to the next step. Headlines are powerful. Headlines have been powerful forever. And again, I collect headlines, and I put them in, I extract the formulas from them, and I have got to have thousands and thousands of headlines. And there's a couple good books out there that are just full of headlines. And that's how we write those headlines. And then we choose from the headlines and we structure out the headlines. We'll talk about that at another time. But again, if you don't have the headlines, you don't have the ideas, you don't have the concepts, you don't have the connections, and we're here to help you make those connections and to increase the quality of your copy. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. If you want to learn more about using words to sell, especially the structure and the elements of copy to cause behavioral change in your reader, and the business of copy so that you can make money as a freelance copywriter or as you build a small agency, then you want to visit www.adbriefings.co.uk/newsletter and get on our newsletter to get more free tips, more ideas, more concepts, and introduction into really the real business of copywriting. I'm not here to sell you some business opportunity. You already know that copy is powerful, that it's persuasive, and that it leads to better communications. The key with our programs here is helping you with implementation, because reading the next copywriting book, God knows I got 100 copywriting books. Reading the next copywriting book is not as useful as actually writing and finishing the next piece of copy. Whether you're writing for a client or you're writing for yourself, putting copy in front of buyers, especially powerful headlines, is how you know what works and what doesn't. I want to thank you for being a part of today's podcast. If you have any questions, you can visit www.adbriefings.co.uk. And we're more than happy to answer your questions. This podcast is about community. This podcast is about you writing better and more powerful copy. Thank you for being a part of it, and I'm looking forward to hearing your success story. Again, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefings Copywriting Tips.